Ode to Nightingale. I will read this poem first and then I will explain its summary and meaning. My heart aches and drowsy numbness pains my sense as though hemlock I had drunk or emptied some dull opiate to the drains 1 minute past leith words had sunk. 'Tis not enough envy of the happy lot, but being too happy in thine happiness, that thou light winged dryad of the trees, in some melodious plot of beechen green and shadows numberless, stingest of summer in full throated ease. O for draught of vintage that had been cooled I've a long age in the deep delved earth, tasting of flora and the country dance and provincial song, sunburnt of Mayer's. Oh, for a beaker full of warm south, full of a true, the blushful hippocrene, with bleeded bubbles winking at the brim, and purple stained mouths, that I might drink and leave the world unseen, and with thee fade away into the forest dim. Fade far away, dissolve, and quite forget what thou among the leaves hast never known. The weariness, the fever, the fret here, where men sit and hear each other groan, where palsy shakes a few sad last grey hairs, where youth grows pale spectre thin and dies, where but to think is to be full of sorrow and leaden eyed despairs, where beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes, or new loves bind them beyond to morrow. Thou was not born for death, immortal bird, no hungry generations tread thee down. The voice I hear this passing night was heard in ancient days by emperor and clown. Perhaps self same song that I found a path, though the sad heart of truth when sick for home. She stood in tears and the alien corn, same that oft runs through time's heath's charmed magic casements, opening on the foam of perilous seas in fairy lands forlorn. Forlorn, the very word is like a bell to tell me back from thee to my soul self. Adieu, the fancy cannot cheat so well as she is famed do so. Deceiving elf, adieu, adieu. Thy plaintive anthem fades past the near meadows, over the still stream, up the hillside, now this buried deep in the next valley glades. Was it a vision or a waking dream? Fled is that music, do I wake or sleep? This was the poem. This was the poem written by John Keats. He was one of the greatest poets of younger generation of English romantic poems. He started his career as an apprentice to a surgeon, but soon gave it up for poetry. His poetical career lasted for only 4 years, but during this short span, he evolved from ordinary poet to exceptionally mature poetic force. His poetry celebrates beauty, which he considers the ultimate truth. It is portrayed in extremely sensuous images that have been created through beautiful verbal pictures. The image of Nightingale's power in this poem is an apt illustration of poet's craft in this respect. Now I will explain the meaning and summary of the poem. The speaker opens up with a declaration of his on heart edge. He feels numb as though he had taken a drug only a moment ago. He is addressing a nightingale as he hears singing somewhere in the forest and says that his drowsy numbness is not from envy of the nightingale's happiness, but rather from sharing it too completely. He is too happy that the nightingale sings the music of summer from amid some unseen plot of green leaves and shadows. In the second stanza, speaker longs for the oblivion of alcohol, expressing his wish for wine, a draught of vintage that would have tasted like country and like peasant dances, and let him leave the world unseen and disappear into the dim forest with the nightingale. In the third stanza, he explains his desire to fade away, saying he would like to forget the troubles the nightingale has never known, the weariness, the fever, the fret of human life, with its consciousness that everything is mortal and nothing lasts. Youth grows pale, spectre thin and dies, and beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes. In the fourth stanza, the speaker tells the nightingale to fly away and he will follow, not through alcohol, but through poetry which will give him viewless wings. He says that he is already with Nightingale and describes forest glade, where even moonlight is hidden by the trees, except the light that breaks through when the breezes blow the branches. In the fifth stanza, speaker says that he cannot see the flowers in the glade, but can guess them in embalmed in darkness, white hawthorn, eglantine, violets, the musk rose, the murmurous haunt of flies on summer eves. In the sixth stanza, the speaker listens in the dark to the nightingale, saying that he has often been half in love with the idea of dying and called death soft names in many rhymes, surrounded by the nightingale's song. The speaker thinks that the idea of death seems richer than ever, and he longs to seize upon the midnight with no pain, while the nightingale pours its soul ecstatically forth. If he were to die, the nightingale would continue to sing, he says, but he would have ears in vain and be no longer able to hear. In the seventh stanza, the speaker tells the nightingale that it is immortal, that it was not born for death. He says that the voice he hears singing has always been heard by ancient emperors and clowns, by homesick youths. He even says that the song he has often charmed open magic windows, looking out over foam of precious seas in fairy lands of forlorn. In the eighth stanza, word from forlorn tolls like a bell to restore the speaker from his preoccupation with the nightingale and back into himself. As the nightingale flies further away from him, he laments that his imagination has failed him and says that he can no longer recall whether the nightingale music was a vision or waking dream. Now that music is gone, the speaker cannot recall whether he himself is awake or asleep. Form of this poem. Like most of the Ode to Nightingale is written in 10-line stanzas. However, unlike most of the other poems, it is metrically variable, though not so much as Ode to Psyche. First seven and last two lines of each stanza are written in iambic pentameter. The eighth line of each stanza is written in trimeter, with only three accented syllables instead of five. Nightingale also differs from the other codes. that its rhyme scheme is the same in every stanza. Theme of this poem. With the ode to Nightingale, Keats' speaker begins his fullest and deepest exploration of the themes of creative compassion and mortality of human life. In this ode, the transience of life and the tragedy of old age is set against eternal renewal of the nightingale's fluid music. The speaker reprises the drowsy numbness he experienced in hour of indolence, but where in indolence that numbness was a sign of disconnection from experience, but here it is sign of full connection, as the speaker tells Nightingale. Hearing the song of Nightingale, the speaker longs to flee the human world and join the bird. His first thought is to reach bird state through alcohol, but later he realizes this is just a dream or a vision, and it is of no use to think about this. So now I will explain the questions which are about the poem. So first question is, how does the Nightingale's song plunge the poet into state of ecstasy? Answer. When Keats was sitting under a palm tree in the garden of his house in Hampstead, he composed this poem. He was inspired by Nightingale's song and completed the poem within one day. The poet begins the poem in a melancholic mood and despairingly expresses how his heart aches as if he is poisoned or is drugged. He felt as if he drank Leith's water and was drowsy. Then it is revealed that actually it is nearby bird Nightingale's song, which is the reason for poet's happiness. Poet addresses the nightingale that he is happy in the bird's happiness. Question 2. What are the unpleasant aspects of the human condition that the poet wants to escape from? So answer is, while the poet is celebrating his newfound happiness in the nightingale song, he is thrown into much deeper thought, I think. Keats commiserates with the human for the sorrow and unpleasantness that one has to go through one's life. Poet wishes to escape from all this, but escape from all this means only death. So he wishes to escape. He wishes to fly away from the bird and drown himself in the ecstasy of its humming. Keats realizes the truth of human life. He renounces and learns that this world can serve nothing more than momentary pleasures to humans, and rest is always sham and has pain. All the materialistic gains have pain rooted in them, and he wants to break free from them. He lists out various, such as intrigues and obstacles. He tells the bird, who has never experienced fever, weariness, fret, who never sits like man and groans while palsy shakes. Few, those sad folks with those last few grey hairs. How youth fades and grows pale, thin and dies within time. He grieves for this world where nothing is permanent. Poet wishes to escape from all these aspects of our physical world and wants to see the other world where true happiness lies according to him. He thinks spiritual bliss awaits from him. Third question: what quality of beauty and the love poem highlights? Romantic share a reverence for nature's beauty and find solace in her embrace. In this poem, Ode to Nightingale, Keats realizes the ultimate truth, which is death. To fight this inevitability, he celebrates the beauty of nature, in which he finds beauty through bird song. However, we all must die. The poet travels a long journey from mortality to immortality. Keats realizes the song of immortal Nightingale and feels fantastic, ecstatic. The realization dawns upon the poet that the beauty is not what we see, it lies within. The beauty is what he dwells on, is of nature, and it helps him to delay the ultimate, the death. However, he must die. This beauty of bird song, the nature shall always be with him, but the speaker will grow old and die one day. It is to be realized that the true beauty and happiness lies in the spiritual awakening and not in this materialistic world. How does the poet bring out the immortality of the bird? Answer: while the poet is grieving on the unpleasant aspects of human life, he cherishes the nightingale's song and feels elated and finds peace in it. He praises the beauty of it. He calls the bird immortal, for its humming is not to fade away like humans, wither with age and death. He wishes to fly to the nightingale, wants to die and live with the bird. However, Keats soon realizes that what he means is impossible. Keats is bewitched by Nightingale's singing, and he sings in praise of this bird whose ageless humming has been heard by the emperors and clowns and even Ruth, and by all since times immemorial, and will be there, heard by posterity. Spellbound, he further embellishes and adds the beauty to the bird's song by personification. Enchanted by the evergreen beauty of the sound of this bird, Keats delays the inevitability of death and leaves the immortality of the bird, though not for long. Question 5: how does poet tossed back from ecstasy to into despair? Answer: while Keats praises the bird song, the nightingale flies further away from him. The poet sighs, forlorn, as the sound is distanced. The spell breaks and Keats awakens to the reality. He realizes that while dreaming he had traveled from reality. He is thrown back into the physical world again, and he grieves that his imagination is not to become a reality. Keats laments at the loss and wonders whether he was dreaming or he envisioned it all. He bemoans for his bereft for this art and the beauty. Question 6: how does the poem bring out the elusive nature of happiness in human existence? The poem is an attempt to distinct happiness and true happiness, the real and imaginary, the reality and dream, the pleasure and pain, the ideal and the actual, as Richard Fogel calls it. The everlasting and momentary have been differentiated in the poem. The true pleasure at Keats defines lies not in the physical world, which is full of miseries and pain and loss. We chase the beauty and happiness by the way poet chases the bird song, and still at the point the spell is bound to break like a bubble burst and human is thrown into reality to realize ultimate and inevitable the death. Happiness is elusive and evanescent and cannot be held forever. It is fickle and promiscuous. The poet once felt that he has true happiness. Singing of Nightingale, which is beyond age and time, he wakes up to reality. He realizes that it was just a vision, dream, and so is happiness. Like a dream, not stationary. That we can do is delay the inevitability of death through his beauty that gives transcendental happiness.